Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Bridging Community Connections, Exploring Trends in Art and Craft Festivals. My name is Justine Chappell, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager for ZAPP. My pronouns are she, her, and to provide a visual description of myself, I'm a white woman with strawberry blonde hair. I'm wearing a tan t-shirt, and I'm sitting in front of a virtual background that is blue with the ZAPP logo. I'm very excited to welcome our panel of Art and Craft Festival artists and administrators, and I'd like to offer a sincere thanks to them for being here today. Thank you all for attending, and please welcome our moderator, Emily Edelstein, who will get our introduction started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Justine. As she mentioned, my name is Emily Edelstein. My pronouns are she, her. I am a white woman with brown hair. I am wearing glasses, silver jewelry, and a black top. And I am in an office cube with a CraftNOW sign in the background. I am located in Center City, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. I am the executive director of CraftNOW Philadelphia, which is a nonprofit that works with the craft community of Philadelphia through education, curation, and economic development. I am a longtime student, maker, and buyer of craft, and I'm excited to be here today. And I am going to go and Clifton, if you could go next, please.
All right, my name is Clifton Henri. You can refer to me as he or him. Visual description, I am a dashing African-American, light-skinned male with a bald head, full beard, and I am sitting in front of a blurred background. I am I guess a 16-year art show veteran at this point. I'm not the young buck anymore. Full-time photographer, award-winning photographer, and super excited to be here and add some insight.
Karina.
Hello, everyone. Well, my name is Karina. My last name is Llergo. It is spelled L-L-E-R-G-O, and it's very difficult in this state to pronounce. No one knows how to call me, so whatever is good. I go by she, he. As a visual description, I am a white Latin woman with curly hair. I'm wearing a black shirt, and I'm against one of my windows, seeing my beautiful backyard. I am in Chicago, Illinois, but I'm originally from Mexico City. I arrived to Chicago, US 17 years ago, and I've been doing art shows for 15 years. My background is a graphic designer. I worked many years in the corporate world until I moved to Chicago, and I really stopped doing everything to just embracing this beautiful journey. I have done many art shows around the nation. I've been featured artist in many shows, and I have won some awards too. Yeah, I do paintings of oil and acrylic, mainly woman, very motivational paintings.
Okay. And Katie?
Hi, my name is Katie Johnson. My pronouns are she, her. A visual description is I am a white woman in her 40s with brown hair that is mid-length. It's a little longer than my shoulders. I'm wearing glasses and a black shirt, long sleeve shirt with a blurred background. I am located in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I work for the American Craft Council. My role is Director of Programs and Marketplaces. So while I live in Santa Fe, I work in many different cities across the country, helping to produce shows and events that support the American Craft Council's mission to develop audiences for craft, tell the stories of makers, and create opportunities and support the livelihood of people working in craft. Just a little bit about myself as well. My background is both as an arts administrator and also an artist. I was trained as a production potter, had a pottery business in my 20s, and then moved on to get a degree in sculpture. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Sculpture, and then taught for many years in a variety of different areas, including community ceramic studios and others. But now I'm really fully an arts administrator with a side practice as a ceramicist. Those experiences, that and also over the years as an administrator, developing artist programs and coaching artists has given me the privilege and the honor to have had hundreds of one-on-one conversations with people working in craft and understanding the business side of it, as well as, again, producing events that create economic opportunity and networking opportunities and just supporting the livelihoods of craftspeople. And I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, and Brissa.
Hi, my name is Brissa Chilton-Garcia. My pronouns are she, her. A visual description of myself: I am a young Mexican-American female in her 20s. I'm wearing a striped shirt, and my background is the Archbishop's Award from our last market that we had. I am the program coordinator for the traditional Spanish market, which takes place in Santa Fe, and I work for the Atrisco Heritage Foundation based in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where our mission is to preserve culture and create economic opportunities for the community. So that is our ultimate goal, and our unique art festival celebrates the Spanish colonial art forms of all of New Mexico and southern Colorado. And my background is graduated with a couple of degrees, not completely related, but I'm currently going for my master's in public administration. So I have a background in both finance, admin, and in terms of an artist, I dally in it and enjoy it, and I love to look at it, but I'm here to support the community.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome, panelists. So we are going to dive right into our first question, which is about technology and its role in today's festivals and fairs. So the question, and this is to all the panelists, is what ways do you think technology can and has enhanced the festival experience? And on the flip side, which ways do you think it can be a barrier to festival participation? And I'm going to first pose it to the artists, Clifton and Karina, and then I'll move on to the administrators. So Clifton or Karina, would you like to start us off?
Sure, I'll start off. I think technology has benefited the art fair community and process quite a bit. We use ZAPP as an example, having somewhat of a central location to do a majority of your applications and things like that has been super helpful. Instead of, if I'm interested in doing 20 shows this year, I have to learn and figure out 20 different application processes. So that's been great. Communication between the show and the artist, like during the actual festival, whether it be weather, whether it be just a heads up about logistics of the show, check-in, things like that. All of that is super helpful. And I think some of the barriers might be some of the real veterans in the art festival community that are like upwards of theirs, 60s, 70s and up. That a majority of their career was kind of doing things the analog route. You know what I mean? So shows converting fully to digital situations, I could see being a struggle for them sometimes.
Yes, I agree totally with Clifton. He almost said everything about, how technology had improved the art shows for the artist. Also, social medias, help a lot. Having QR codes with some of the art shows that put in your signs for your booth, have helped people to go and check your website there immediately, or anything that you can connect to. Also, like artists putting also, again, QR codes next to paintings to show videos and things like that. It had helped in the communication through the show, as Clifton mentioned, like communicating anything, load out, where is the breakfast, if there's coming a storm. So that has been really, really great for us artists. The process, I mean, it's so smooth, just to go to maybe one or two platforms and look for the art shows and see what is in your area, which are the shows that you want to apply. With a very, detailed description of what is the show about, and communication also, through email with the our directors and all that. Struggles, again, yes, I would say not everybody, it's knows a lot of technology. It's actually a learning curve because it's always changing. But yeah, like things like, using social media, not everyone, especially people that are older. I mean, the young ones, they know perfectly, but, it's a disadvantage because, in these days, a lot of people wants to see things through, connect with the audience, through the social media and see videos of what you're doing or your process and all that. And it's a disadvantage for, people that don't know how to use this or even apply to the shows through the computer. But I would say it's mainly for people that were not, or that we were not actually, born with this, because I was part of that generation, so you need to learn and try to do the best that you can.
Okay, so I'd like to hear from the administrative side about how technology has worked and evolved within that process. So I see Katie is unmuted. We'll start with her.
Sure. So those were really great answers, and I agree wholeheartedly that technology has really helped streamline the shows. Hopefully it can create, in a lot of ways, less time and energy being spent on the applications themselves for artists, because as we all know, time is so precious, and most artists would probably really appreciate being in the studio and not spending hours and hours on each individual application. So those are real benefits. From the admin side, one of the other benefits is that these different platforms, or just even the ability to use electronic forms in different ways, cuts down on our time as administrators as well, which in turn can actually keep the cost of producing shows a bit lower. Because so many of the hands-on pieces, so previously in older shows, you would send in slides. Those all had to be gone through by hand. People would send in checks that then had to be processed. There were a lot of just really labor-intensive processes because that's what was available. But now we can connect payment options right through the applications, all kinds of ways to make it faster for us. And so we can spend our time doing other things and hopefully keeping booth fees low and other things that, help us, and actually application fees low as well. That's going to be a really key piece.
So I'd like Brissa to weigh in, because I think her festival has a different relationship with technology currently.
Yeah, so the area where I'm at, we're a much more rural community. So we're currently trying to go across the bridge into having more technology used. We have a lot of people who may not have email or Wi-Fi. So we're still doing everything paper and electronic. So we're trying to move over. So that's been one of our struggles, is how to go more towards technology to make it easier on the administrative side, but still be inclusive to our community, because we are mostly rural and mostly tenured artists with over like 25 years in the market. So our vendors are a slightly different demographic than maybe other art festivals. But one of the positives that we've definitely seen is, of course, communication makes it much faster. It has made processing easier in some aspects. And in addition, we're also able to create new avenues of sales for the artists. So a lot of these artists don't have social medias or don't have ways to really market themselves. And their big sale is just at our 2 events. So we're trying to create an all year round sales avenue where we have their information and bios for them on websites so that they get the marketing and are able to increase their sales. So we're trying to use technology in that way as well, outside of maybe the internal administrative, but to try to create more avenues for our artists as well.
So I'd like to continue the talk about, some barriers to technology, both from rural populations and older populations. How do you facilitate that learning so everyone has equal access to the technology? And anyone can chime in. Maybe Brissa, you can start with how you're teaching your artists.
So I create pamphlets every couple of months with communications that go over everything we're doing, both technology and paper-wise. So I give them 2 options. We'll give them the paper flyers if they want that. We'll give them the social media image to try to encourage, usage of marketing through social media. We're encouraging with the website that they are more open to it. So we explain, how the website works, the information that we're going to share to make people a little more trusting in the new technology so that hopefully with time they'll see the benefits from it. We already saw a lot of people this year. I mailed the package out, they took photos of it, but they sent photos back. So although we still were working on paper, I'm starting to get digital images. And so just allowing people to communicate with me via email or my cell phone, etc. I think just slow encouragement and providing both options so that nobody feels left out, left behind, not included. So still allowing the option as we go towards that direction. And I think instant change is really hard or difficult to swallow sometimes. And so just a slow process is the easiest way to have them see that it's trustworthy. We're not, there's a lot of ideas around, if we're taking credit cards for online payments, what's going to happen with that? And so just educating them along the way. To build that trust with the new technology. And also a lot of times it's sitting on a phone call and explaining how to fill out a PDF, download a PDF and send it. So it's just a lot of communication between the artist and myself.
Yeah, I think it's you have to be able to hold your person or your customer's hand through the process, especially if you're doing something different and that's something that they're not familiar with. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I might have been one of the first guys on the art festival circuit to actually start taking digital payments on site. And literally it was a 2-way pager with a credit card swipe on it. People didn't know what I was doing, but I think the first 2 years I was actually doing the knuckle buster, and then this became a available option. And this was before Square. This is before all of that. And a lot of people were hesitant about it, but I'm like, well, this is the direction that the industry is moving. This will look like something else next year. But just going through the process with them, give them the best experience possible with it. And then ultimately, this is the new norm that is likely going to happen. So I'll walk with you through it, no problem.
Yeah, I really like what Clifton said there as well, because the artist community helps each other. So when they see another artist doing it, it helps them. And there's a lot of support within the community as well to help with those changes.
Oh, I've had to fix plenty of other artists' Square machines or platform, like getting things connected through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, things like that. So yeah, to your point, we help each other out as well. Like the artists have a learning curve through all of this as well.
Right, and also you're having a lot of patience also, with your clients, especially, if you're trying to integrate things like QR codes and things into your booth. You know, most of these people, they go and I mean, most people older, younger people, they know more than us. But the older ones, you know, I have seen several times that they go, oh, I can follow you there, you know, and they just go and take a picture of a QR code is actually, you know, taking them to the website or something. So they are trying, but you need to really be patient, you know, and have the time to explain where does that take them and what can they do with that, you know, because it can take you to several options. So I think having patience with people, you know, to explain how this works, and also, you know, with other artists, absolutely, you know, if something is working for you, I always like to share things with artists, especially, you know, if they're new and starting in the art shows.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about craft communities is it is, and we're all in this together, and they're very open about sharing. So I'm going to start with Katie on this question. How has the craft art fair experience evolved with technology? And is it still the same experience, or has technology somehow altered it into something a little different?
A couple things come to mind. So at the American Craft Council, for instance, we post, so we had on our website, we have different events going out throughout the year, and we actually upload the information from all of our exhibitors onto our site. And those are active links. So it's an image of people's work, it's their booth number, you can access their website. And we find that a lot of our event attendees really like to plan ahead and see who is exhibiting and kind of come up with a game plan, especially when a show is a bit bigger, like one of ours. So you have maybe 400 booths to navigate. So, and if you only have a day or two, you might want to sort of, you know, think about, or actually also think about whether or not you want to come. Is your favorite artist there or someone you've known for a long time? So and that's really leveraging technology, not only in a way for our attendees to plan, but also to, I think, dig a little deeper into the exhibitors themselves. They can contact the exhibitors too. They can go to their websites. We really want to facilitate relationships. And so I think that that's a great way to do that. And then, you know, also I think that, and I'm going to point to social media and websites, technology has really evolved so that we can now offer things like much more interactive and updated site maps, parking information. I just think that the entire experience has become much more seamless because there is just a lot more information available for both exhibitors and attendees, because many people want to know what to expect. And so leveraging technology to empower people, I think, is a really wonderful thing.
Great. And so I love Clifton's description of the knuckle buster, because I remember those. But for the artists and for Brissa, talking about the experience of craft shows over the years, do you see how do you see that changing? And Brissa, as your audience embraces technology, do you see the feel, the experience of your show changing?
Yeah, so I think that it also attracts new people. Our marketing is completely changed once you are on TV, on social media, on billboards, whatever it may be, right? But all the modern forms of advertisement, we're seeing more people arrive to our shows, and we're getting a larger audience, which is beautiful. We're being able to spread the culture more. So we're seeing a wider variety versus our typical collectors or generations that have lived in the community that attend this show. So we're seeing a change in audience for sure. We're seeing people want to apply and be interested that would have never known about this art form. So the word of mouth goes far, but only so far. And technology just allows a lot more people to have the information on the art, on the event, whatever it may be, more people get to know about it. So we're seeing more people join the market that are interested in it, and a new audience arriving, and having new forms, especially like with payments. We're transitioning from cash to card, and we're finding solutions along the way. Now we bring in our own routers to make sure that there's good internet, because it's an outdoor event. So making it easier for our artists to be able to have those forms of sales, so that they can sell more as well, and it's more fruitful for them. A lot of people don't like carrying a lot of cash, so you get more sales when we have different avenues for those as well. So I think all around more positive in terms of audience, vendors, and sales all increase.
I miss the cash days. I do. I miss it. Being able to earn it and spend it like right there. That's saying, oh, I can get a nice dinner tonight. All right, here we go.
Okay. Well, anyone have any last comments on technology before we shift the discussion a little bit?
Yeah, like I really have seen through the years, how technology had helped in many aspects. I remember when I started, when I had someone interested in something, but they couldn't buy in the art show. They sometimes waited 1 year to, find me. Maybe if I was in the art show, these days it's so easy. They can just go and jump into the website of the art show, look for the artist, look what was the category, and find you. So that has been very rewarding for them and also for the artist. And even, looking for you before the show, like actually starting, your paintings, and you do have sometimes sales from that, before the show starts, and seeing also, where these sales are coming from, because you can see if the sales are coming from different states, and you can put that into, oh, wow, so maybe I didn't do very well in the show, last month, but this sale is coming from that show. So I think it helps also to organize and see where you can, where you're really doing well, even though that in the art show per se, maybe you didn't do as well. So that have helped me a lot, and being, absolutely being in touch, with community, with artist community, having all these social media groups just for artists, and there are very big ones, and there are also very small ones, and you can also actually have your very own little group of friends where, normally ways where you always talk about how was the show, what did you see? So it has been easier in so many ways, technology, in my view.
That's an interesting point that you brought up, that the grapevine that happens around shows has also kind of moved online, and it extends it so you can communicate with each other as to what happened, what was good, what was bad. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit, where we've talked a lot about what's changing in shows, and we mentioned, the artists who've been doing this for years, but what's going to happen in the future? And so I want to talk about emerging artists and how you mentor them and how you welcome them into the shows, teach them about shows, and retain them in shows. And so I'm going to start with the administrators on this. So Katie and Brissa, would you like to talk about emerging artists and your successes and failures with them?
Yeah, so it's a really important part for us because it's such a traditional art form. We want to keep this history, tradition, and culture alive. In emerging, we have both our youth artists and then emerging adult artists as well. So we have a youth artist program that we're a juried art show. So juried artists can train up to 3 youth and mentor them throughout 7 to 17. And the goal is to be able to then bring them into the adult artist market, and they already have the publicity, the marketing, and they get followed. We have one of our youth artists, she won 2 awards this summer. She's being presented now in one of the galleries downtown. So it creates a lot of opportunities for them and keeps them motivated. Both awards and relationships within the community to keep them motivated to continue doing the art form. And as for our emerging artists, we have a specific screening and then jurying process to actually be let into the event, just because it's so specific. But then once you're in, we have new artist orientation and other surveys that are tools to help them have a successful market. Everything from whether to, square payments, how to do your taxes. It's a new business. You're your own business. So from the ground up, teaching these artists how to have their own business and actually make this a successful form of revenue for them. So that's part of what we do.
So at the American Craft Council, our events strategy is pivoting. For many years, we had these really large trade shows, sort of like they're like a trade show. It's pipe and drape. They're in a convention center. Our Baltimore show is still very much like that. And the barrier could be, the bar, I would say, is really high to get in one of those shows, both from the jurying process, the quality of work, but that aside, just the cost associated with participating in a show of that caliber. We also have a new event called American Craft Fest, which really is more experiential. It serves emerging artists. It's a tabletop show, so the barriers are a little lower for entry, but there's still costs associated with that. And so our emerging artist programming, which is pretty robust. There's a national cohort, there's a marketplace program, there's many different sort of avenues for early career artists to engage with the American Craft Council, but it's really all in service of trying to remove barriers for early career artists to experiment and learn about the marketplace dynamic and really understand if it's a good fit for them. Because we know that there's a lot of money and investment that goes into just attending one of those and participating, getting a booth together, sort of all of these elements. It's a real investment for artists. And we see ourselves as investing also in the artists. We really want to create a space for early career artists to experiment with their booth design, understanding the logistics of shows, meeting customers, meeting other artists. So our programming is really focused around that. And then our hope is that there's really a cohort of early career artists that will love it and decide that that's a business model that works for them. And then they will, again, then transition to bigger booths or kind of becoming more of a part of the circuit. So we see in a lot of ways our work as being a part of the larger fair ecosystem, where we really want to be a place where people feel like they can dip their feet in, learn from us, and then hopefully gain confidence and start attending or participating in other fairs and sort of growing that side of their business.
And I like how you said early career, because early career does not necessarily mean young, because there are people who become artists and makers as a second or third career. But so a question for Clifton and Karina. So how do you see younger people coming into the fair? What do you see some of their struggles, and how are they integrating into the craft and artist community at these shows?
So I am seeing more and more, art shows are doing a special area for emerging artists, which I think it's wonderful. And these areas, I thank you, Katie and Brissa, for doing all this. I really appreciate that you are working also with emerging artists, because I wish that I would have had someone, at the beginning. But I am seeing that, I'm seeing that change in many shows having these areas which they provide a big tent, so they don't need to spend, at the beginning in your own tent. I needed to rent and buy tents at the beginning. So that is, very helpful because it's a lot of investment. So I love seeing that. And I have also seen few shows starting to do pairing these emerging artists with another artist that have been doing more art shows, for years, which I think that idea is even greater, so you give them the opportunity to be in a space, but also these same artists or maybe other artists, they join for this special program where they put you next to an artist for a couple of hours, maybe 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, I don't know, and then they have the ability to see you actually, at work, and you talking with them too. And I know that this sometimes, for a lot of artists that we sometimes are very, very busy during the shows, it's like, oh, you don't want anyone there because you are busy, with your clients, but really they're never in your way. It's beautiful. They will try to help you in any way. And by helping, also they are learning. And you always have free times to do that. And because some artists, sometimes they don't feel that they have the time to do that. Some shows, so I would recommend, to give an incentive to the artists so that they can actually do this, okay? So they do like maybe, the fee for your the booth for next year application, or you can tell them that they can choose their booth next year, whatever they want. Like if they give them an incentive, then you can see the beauty that this has, because every time that I have the opportunity, I do it. And I always go out with my heart full, like they gave me so much too. And it's just beautiful, it's just beautiful to pass along a little bit of your knowledge to other people. So I'm always, open to new artists. When I have my neighbors, they are new. If they have any questions, even if they don't have questions, sometimes, I approach them and I talk with them, and I always try to help them in some way to do this in a way that it's, it's fulfilled and brings you joy and brings you sales. So that is something that I will think that it will change now, and more shows will start doing this, and it will be wonderful, for you new artists. Like you said, it's not that you are young, any new artist that wants to come into this.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm with Karina on all of that. I wish there was a program or something like that I could have dove into. I literally had to figure it out all myself back then, as well as the artists that were currently in the circuit, like then 15 years ago. Many of them, it kind of felt like they were shielding me from the information that they had in order to dive into the business. So it really ended up being, out of maybe 10, 20 people, 20 artists that I was asking about it, it really ended up being like 1 or 2 that kind of gave me the keys to, this is what you got to do. You're interested in this show right now? Well, guess what? You have to apply 8 months in advance. You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, I'm free next weekend, can I do this? It doesn't work that way. It's like a full year process and things like that. I do appreciate the programs, the young artists, emerging artist programs that they do have, and the pairing of artists or seasoned artists and new artists. I was one of the guys who didn't think I had time to mentor in the beginning, and then I dropped the ball a couple times, and then once I picked up the ball and did the mentoring, I was like, oh, this wasn't that bad at all. And they seemed really interested and grateful, etc. I think one of the ways for the emerging artists to learn, and I guess I'm speaking to myself and for myself too, is instead of just giving them a bunch of information, it's like, all right, tell me what you want to know so that I can kind of capture your attention, right? But those young artists also don't know what they don't know either. But that's only after you get their interest, and they're like, oh, they're really trying to help me instead of just blurting out a bunch of information. It's like, what do you need right now? Like, do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? Like, where are you struggling? Let me help you with this pain point right now. And then as I observe, I can, offer some insight. So I guess if I were to make a shift on any programs for emerging artists, not make it a 1 year situation, that you make it maybe a 3 year commitment, the show and that artist, to kind of usher them into the business. And if there is a pairing between artists, emerging artists, maybe on year 2 or something like that, that you have the seasoned artist next to, in a booth, to their mentored artist. So along the way, you can check in, like, hey, how's it going? You made any sales yet? Like, what's the problem? Things like that. Sometimes it's just attitude and you don't know what to do, or you've heard no 10 times in a day, and it's like, all right, you just need a pep talk. Shake that off, go in there, shake everybody's hand that comes in the booth. You know what I mean? Don't even talk about the artwork, just get in the mode of conversation. But hey, you got any good jokes you could tell me? And just to loosen yourself up and enjoy the experience and the interaction.
Sure.
But
So
sometimes
I'd like
taking
to,
that off is
oh,
helpful. No, go ahead.
yeah. So I'd like to just do a little follow-up for everyone. It's something that we're talking about in Philadelphia a lot because we've had a couple of major art institutions of education close. So where are the next generation of artists coming and makers coming from? And where are they going? So what's going to make them want to join this art craft fair circuit, or are they going to be going in a different direction, selling online, selling on Instagram? So, where are they coming from, and are they coming your way? And I'd like to direct that to the administrators first of all.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Brissa.
So I think due to the art form, we do focus on a lot of it is traditionality, and so it's pouring it into the community at an early age. A lot of our artists are generational, so we have up to 5 generations sometimes at our art shows, so it's really incredible. And so I think that a part of it is we try to provide as many resources as possible to make it successful for them, to both retain them and make it attractive. So we provide booths, tables, signage for everyone, including like our youth artists. We give them an area. We try to give them a good area near the entertainment, where they have a lot of traffic. So providing them with all the tools to make it successful for them is one of our goals, so that they're not discouraged. I think creating an encouraging environment, and one of the great things that I loved hearing from Clifton is it sounds like the culture is changing in the art festivals. It's much more encouraging. It's much more communal, maybe, that shift of mentorship and mentoree. So I think a large part of it is creating that encouraging notion for everyone. And in addition to the people that are coming in, for us, it tends to be, it's just inquiries. So we're open to inquiries all year round, and it's providing information in the moment. Like Clifton said, and others have said, it's a year-long process, right? So a lot of times we hear, hey, can I join the market? And it's like in a week. But instead of letting these people go, we keep track of everybody who makes an inquiry on the market, to keep track of them, update them along the way. So we stay in communication with everyone who shows interest to make sure that they don't get lost.
I think that early career artists are coming from a lot of different places. they're still coming from art departments. They're coming from folk schools. They're coming from a lot of the same places that they have been before. It is a bit of a struggle to entice early career artists into the craft fair circuit, the craft market circuit. And for some of the reasons that I mentioned earlier, the barriers are real. It takes an investment. It's a real leap for people. And people aren't often really sure if it's a good fit. And so other sales channels tend to have a little bit higher return on investment with a little less time and energy. And I'm thinking about like selling things on Instagram, for instance, and actually building a website, especially for someone who is tech savvy, can be a relatively simple endeavor these days. But what I am seeing is that a lot of artists are now taking a multi-sales channel approach to their businesses, where they are, selling things through their website. They have some wholesale. They might be in a couple galleries or stores, and then they're still also experimenting with marketplaces and trying to find their place with that. And a lot of conversations I have now with artists is rethinking the value proposition of the craft fair as not just an outlet for sales, but also a marketing expense and a networking expense. And when you start thinking about it that way, the return on the investment starts to get higher, actually, because you realize that at a craft fair, you're not only trying to have sales, but you're gathering email addresses for your newsletter, which hopefully you're, putting out into the world. You can follow up with people, especially depending on what kind of work a crafts person is making, such as something a little more expensive, maybe furniture. A lot of times craft fairs are turning into almost like a showroom where people are bringing work and then following up and having sales later and starting that conversation at the fair. So I think that the way that craft fairs can sort of fit into somebody's career is changing. And I think that also, again, early career artists are seeing it as one avenue, not just the only avenue for sales and marketing and other things.
And I believe that echoes back to what Karina was saying earlier about that she had sales before the show.
Yeah.
From that show or the QR codes. So I think the idea of having it as a marketing expense, especially with all this new technology, is.
Yeah, I think it's very important what Katie was mentioning, how we need to start like seeing all this business. It's not one thing. You need to do many things. Some work better than other ones. Some you apply more time to than other ones. But the reality is that you need to be open to possibilities to have, different outlets. I have tried many outlets, and for me, this is what gives me the sales, the art shows, definitely. The other ones help, and especially it helped, during the COVID, having all those other outlets, they actually let me have sales during that year. And I closed my year very well, but I jumped into the other outlets, okay, which normally I don't put all my effort into that. But I think that if you really want to be a successful artist in this, you need to do a lot of things. And some of these things you might not like. It's like, for me, I talk about social media a lot. It's not that I love social media. I don't like social media at all. It takes me a long time to create one video of 30 seconds, which I need to dedicate it to my art. But I owe it to the people, that it's following me. So yes, I don't post every week. I don't post every day. Absolutely not. I might post, every 2 weeks, every month. I don't even take, when or where I'm going to post it, because it all depends how you are. Some people are very fast and do it. And, I am so perfectionist in my paintings that I also want to do that perfect pose where there's no perfect pose. No one is going to notice it. You know, if the bird is not flying here, you know, like it doesn't really matter, but for me, it matters. So I know that that is a barrier for me. So I try not to do it as often, but I do it because I owe it. If I open my social media, I owe it to the people, you know, that are following me. And you know, it's so nice also to see the people, you know, commenting about that and having a conversation with you, because I try actually to answer to each one, you know. So, but really, you need to do several things to be successful and to be living from being an artist. But I really think that art shows it's the at the top.
Okay, well, I think that's a great segue into our final topic, which is what makes a show successful in today's world. So, and this is a big question. So, first, I want to talk to Clifton and Karina. And as going to shows, what makes you come back to a show?
The dollars, baby. The if I keep coming back to shows, then I've done well at the show. And that can be with different kind of currency too, right? You could get the where you're having many, like tons and tons and tons of conversation, like the interest is high, the vibe is good. Maybe you didn't make a ton of money at this show, but you still feel like the community or the show or the patrons or whatever embraced you, you know what I mean? Especially if it's your first time doing a particular festival. Absolutely, if you do well, I do well, I'm coming back. I'll keep coming back until the trend starts to fall and I'm not doing as well as I once did. But even then, that may be on me. Maybe I need to adjust my attitude at the show or do more promotion and things like that. But yeah, if the money's right, I'll be back.
Yes, of course, I agree with Clifton. You know, you want to do sales. That's the number one thing. But also, you know, if I see that maybe it was not a good weekend for me, but I'm seeing my neighbors, you know, having a good weekend, that is a very important point that make me think that I need to return. So there's other variants that can, you know, like for me, the location is very important. Not just location by itself, that it's an area where, you know, people like to buy art and have the money to buy art, which is important, but also the location where you are actually living or traveling. Okay, so you need to plan, you know, and this is just for artists that we have done it, you know, for several years. You know, we need to plan where we're going and which shows to choose from the ones that actually chose you. But for new artists, you know, I will always suggest just start local. You need to start local and you need to try it, you know, 2 times, you know, or 3 times. I always suggest when they start, it's like, okay, I'm going to do one show. No, one show is not enough, because if it rains, it will be a really bad show. So at least try 2 or 3 shows, okay? Just to have a taste the first year. And then if it didn't go well, that's normal. Don't get discouraged. You know, we all have really bad shows and you will learn. But then you start local and then you need to expand little by little. Maybe you start, you know, driving 1 hour and a half, then you go 3 hours, then you go 5, 8, and suddenly, you know, are traveling all the nation. That's the way you need to start, because sometimes I have commit, you know, like, yeah, of course, I'm going to drive, you know, 30 hours to a show, and then I need to drive 20 hours to another show. And, you know, I was just studying, I didn't know what I was doing. So I think you need, and it's beautiful to start in your community too, you know, it's beautiful to start small and then starting to expand, because then you actually start seeing, you know, like this is becoming better for you. It takes a little bit to
Sure.
actually start seeing results. You can have a very good show, and maybe one bad show. But to have the results, like maybe it will take like, I remember the first year that I did a couple of shows, it was like, oh, I can do all this money in one art show. The next year, we're like, what? I don't do anything in the art shows. By the third year, we're like, you know what? You need to retire from this. Like, you're not earning any money. You know, once I really start to take out all the expenses, not just what I was earning. And I was like, I stick to it. And by the 4th year, I started to see, you know, how it just went, you know, how it just ran, because I was getting knowledge and I was meeting people. Like Clifton was saying, not all the artists want to help. You actually see more no's than yes, but you just need 5 people. You just need a couple of people to, you know, just grab their arm and walk this with them. You know, they will help you. You will help them. So,
don't give up too early, huh?
No,
don't give up too
don't
early.
do
So, Katie and Brissa, what makes a good show? And talking to artists, what makes them come back to your show?
I agree, sales. So from the artist perspective, and what we're trying to bring to artists, you know, sales is going to be super important. I would also point back to some of what I said earlier, that there needs to be other returns that maybe aren't as immediate, that that sometimes artists don't really think about. And I do mean continued conversations, introductions, things that turn into sales later. There are a lot of really interesting outcomes from shows that might not immediately equate to the bottom line, but really build into something else. And I think being mindful of that is really important. I won't tell this very long story, but super briefly, I talked to an artist from who does one of our shows last year, and she told me that she had this incredible interaction with her. Basically, she's an enamelist. She makes enamel jewelry with like her idol, who ended up in her booth, who then invited her to his studio, and they developed this really lovely relationship. And that was literally from doing that show. Like that was how that happened. So I think thinking about it holistically is going to be super important. I just wanted to say that. But also, so as an arts administrator and as a show producer, we're of course thinking about serving the artists and having really great communication for them. Like a successful show for me is getting emails afterwards saying that I felt like so empowered. I knew where everything was. That was really smooth. Load in, load out was really smooth. Like that's the stuff that I get really excited about hearing from artists as well as sales. But we're always thinking about attendees as well. They're our other audience, and a successful show is a very well attended show that has great feedback from our attendees, super engaged. We're seeking sponsorships, and our sponsors are really happy and feel like the value proposition it was there for them. So we, as a show producer, I have a number of different audiences that I'm thinking about. And a successful show is praises sort of all around, and like needing really meeting their needs is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think Katie, you got pretty much everything in there. I think, of course, we have our artists, and if they're happy, we're happy. To keep artists happy, we have to have an audience. So that goes everywhere from our entertainment, our food vendors, making it a whole experience for everyone involved. So afterwards, we get a lot of feedback. I know Katie does as well, surveys, making sure that we have the communication to know what went well, what didn't go well, what suggestions. Our audience and our artists know just as much as we do. So it's really important to take that information from them, and we can work on it for next year. You know, we've had years where they're like, oh, well, why didn't you market in this one area? We didn't know about it, and it was something really successful. So feedback always from all of our audiences. Another one is keeping our relationships. For me, the city of Santa Fe is one of my biggest relationships. So it's just maintaining those. We've seen our market go through lots of ups and downs, lots of changes in relationships, and keeping positive relationships with the city, with the security, with the tent companies. So just really solidifying those relationships and making sure that we're we're good vendors too, you know, that we work well with everyone, so they come back. We have a lot of really long-term relationships. We work with the Cathedral Basilica in the city, and it's a relationship we love. And so nurturing our relationships, nurturing our sponsors, and at the end of the day, getting the positive feedback, as Katie said, is how we are able to tell the success. And so a lot of communication, building relationships, and ultimately good sales. That's a telltale sign. That means you had good audience, you had good artists, had good all around. So yeah, the numbers will show how we did. And the feedback is, even when it's constructive criticism, right? That's wanted as well. I want to know what we did wrong so we can improve. There's always room for improvement and room for growth. So that's a lot of us.
All right, so talking about sales, let's talk about the customers that are coming to these shows and how that is changing. You know, the collectors of the 80s and 90s are aging, and there are new audiences who are learning to collect or coming for an experience. So how does that change the look and feel of the shows and how you market them? And with that, does it change the type of show that you put on? Is it the juried craft show that has an entrance fee, or is it more of an experience that has the food trucks and the live music? Or is that a mixture of both? And actually, this is open to everyone.
I have one note to make, which I think the Disney experience, I feel like we've all heard about it, right? Disney is great at what they do. It's an experience, it's the sound, smell, everything. And so I feel like a lot of art festivals and shows are starting to depict that same image. We have every single aspect that makes it enjoyable and come together. So I think we're evolving towards that. And I know in previous conversations, I heard from Katie as well, that it's maybe evolving more towards it incorporates every aspect to make it a full experience.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. The shows need to evolve. They really do. And I think show producers know that, the artists know it too. I've had lots of conversations on both sides of it, and longtime exhibitors really want to see younger audiences in. They want to see younger artists exhibiting as well. I mean, younger and early career. I mean, younger by age and also early career, like new voices, different generations. And I think that there's a lot of openness to this, and it's really the responsibility of show producers to then think about how that translates into the design of the show. And I think that's really understanding your audience. Younger generations tend to really value experiences. And so I think that making sure that experiences are a part of the show is going to be important. So that could translate into performances, demonstrations and hands-on activities, discussions and talks. I mean, there's so many different sort of layers that can be brought in. Food trucks are another really great option that's in food in general. Is kind of, it's that festival energy. I think that, and Brissa was touching on this, like really creating sort of a sensory experience. And doing that in a way that does not alienate the longtime attendees who really enjoyed, like really thinking about the artists. I mean, this is a thing that also has been brought to my attention in a lot of conversations is, yes, the experience is important, but also making sure that it's not overshadowing the show itself, and finding that balance that's still centering the exhibitors and making it easy to access their booths, making sure that they're easy to find and that work is being sold. And that tension is challenging, but it's an exciting challenge. It's really fun.
I know that putting on a show, producing a show, is no easy task at all. And just realizing this over the last few years, like understanding that shows are adjusting and making changes along the way to doing what they feel is the best route, etc. That us as artists, especially if you've been in a location like multiple times or in the show multiple times, that we can't lean on the show 100% to provide what we need for the to have a successful show. So don't just show up, you know. If you're participating in the show, essentially be an ambassador for the show.
Yes.
Promote it to your friends and family, and hit up your email list, and make your social media posts and things like that. Look at it as a partnership versus you paid your money to get this booth so you can get this money. Like now you're a taker. You're not pouring into the experience per se. And that's just a change of perspective. If you look at yourself as partners, you want the whole entire thing to do well. You want your neighbors to do well. You obviously want to do well. So yeah, just adjusting the perspective as an exhibitor and being a partner in the whole mix, and filling out those surveys and making suggestions, and try to create the best scenario for yourself. But also, we the artists also need to do our parts to have the best show that we can possibly have.
Yeah, absolutely. Clifton is right. You know, it takes both parts, you know, like all the work that an art show puts into it, you know, sometimes you are not thinking about that. We're just talking about, you know, just a successful show is if we do sales. Yeah, but to do sales, you know, you need to do all this in the back, you know, to have the crowds. And to have the crowds also means that we also need to do our part. You know, I always invite my clients, you know, I always do that social media post. I always send my newsletter saying that I'm going to be in that show. And sometimes, you know, even if there's not a lot of people, I get sales from my newsletter that I send to my clients. So we all need to work together in this. And also, I really believe that attitude is super important. You know, you need to be there. You need to be smiling. You need to be receiving people that goes into your booth. You shouldn't be hiding. You know, I know that sometimes you don't want to be inside your booth because it's overwhelming. That you want people to walk around, but you need to be there. Just, you know, introduce yourself. Don't need to talk a lot first. You know, just introduce yourself, and have a positive attitude, because I think it just changed everything. Because even if you don't have a good sale, you're going to have a good weekend.
Well, we're coming up on 4:10. I'm just wanting to check in with Justine. I think that was a lovely note. But does anyone have any final thoughts on where craft shows are, or where they're going in art shows, and where they're going in the future?
I just want to say that I think that there's still a sustainable avenue for artists to make sales and to connect to customers, and also to build community and visibility for craftspeople. And, you know, there is some talk about them maybe going away, or, you know, some questions about the future, but I think that they're still really going strong. And I think that they're really important.
Yeah, I think that just from a personal perspective, as someone who has worked and bought and exhibited, there's a human element to buying something from the hands that made it.
Yes.
That I think is irreplaceable. And I'm very hopeful for the future of craft shows and art shows, because I enjoy them so much. And
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm sorry, Clifton.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Nothing can compare to that experience. Nothing. Like, I think that's the most beautiful thing of an art show, the connection with people, the connection with the client meeting the artist. So every time that they take one piece of you, they're not just taking the piece. They are taking that conversation, that personality, that artist with them. And they love that, you know, seeing the art. It's just not seeing a beautiful art that they saw at a gallery. It's seeing the art where they met the artist. I mean, it just gives so much. It's so special. You know, I bought art from artists, and every time that I see that art, it just reminds me of the artist. And most of the times I buy the art, yes, because I like it, but because I also like the artist. Maybe I just met him, her, but I had this beautiful conversation and I love the art. And then it reminds me of the artist. So I think that nothing can give you that. And I think that is, I don't think they're going away. I think they are still strong. Yeah, we have a lot of shows, but I think that new generations, even though that we don't see a lot of new, like young people, they are there, they are asking questions. They go to the shows, they look around, they're asking questions, and there's always new people.
Absolutely.
There's always new people coming, and people want to see that too. So, it's
So,
also that sometimes you are not selected for a show, because that means
mhm.
they're going to see another new artist, not always your face in the same corner, in the same booth. So I think it's just beautiful, the mix.
Yeah. Well, speaking of new people, I want to bring some other people into the conversation. So I'm going to turn it over to Justine, who's going to take some questions from our listeners.
Yes, thank you. And we have plenty of questions submitted, but if anyone does have anything else that they want to submit to the panelists, feel free to put that in the Q&A feature. But I'm going to try to get to a few questions here. Apologies in advance if we don't get to yours. Our first question is, what advice would you give to more seasoned artists and show exhibitors to help us or them grow with the times and become more comfortable with changes in art shows and administration practices? Let me pose this to the artists in our group first, and see what they think. So Clifton or Karina?
Can you say the question one more time? How
Yep.
would you?
Yeah, what advice would you give to more seasoned artists or show exhibitors to help them grow with the times and be more comfortable with the changes in the festival industry?
In technology?
Yeah, it could be. I think this was submitted during the emerging artist portion.
I think it's just honestly it's repetition. Like you have to get your repetitions up in order to get comfortable with it, even though you don't necessarily are familiar with like whatever the processes are or whatever. Like it's repetition. Like with repetition, you'll get comfortable with doing it. So just get the repetitions up.
Yeah, and by doing, the shows, you start meeting all the artists, and some artists that you will actually, you will get them for life. I met my very good artist friends in the first shows that I did, and they're still my very, very good friends, and I grew with them, and that's the beauty about it. So yeah, I think that you need to do it several times to actually get comfortable at many things, even at just putting up your booth, the way that you want to accommodate it and little things like that. But you know what? It's like everything, like everything you learn step by step. There's nothing that it's written that this is going to be a successful show, but there's things that you can know before the shows to try to do it to be more successful. And everything, you can Google it, you can find it online, you can just approach, the art shows directors, any other artists, their groups. Like there's many, many places where you can find this information.
So I would just cut in and say that mentorship does not have to be one way. And I say this as someone in her 40s who learns most of her technology from her Drexel interns. So I think that maybe younger artists can be a resource to the more the veterans and help with technology.
Yeah, I agree. And I also really liked what Karina said about other resources to learn. I know that there are some really great Facebook groups that show artists are on and festival, but like about different festivals or about also, again, application processes, images, that kind of thing. So I think that I'm a big fan of crowdsourcing solutions, and I think that those are some really great places to do that.
I was going to say that also go at your own pace. You don't have to
Yeah.
be all in. So I think working at your own pace and using what works for you, it's an enhancement. It's a tool. Use the tools that work for you. And once you use one thing, you'll feel more encouraged to do the next thing. So Doesn't have to be next day, you know how to use all of the apps and the this and the card readers. Maybe you want more sales online, start with Square, you know, take it in bite-sized pieces, learn one thing, and yeah, be patient with yourself too.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Our next question, submitted by a show director. We are seeing fewer applications to our show. We've extended the deadline twice. This is the 15th year. Do you have any suggestions for increasing participation / applications, I would assume? So, Katie, do you have any thoughts on this first?
Yeah, I do, but it's also, I always have thoughts. Um, uh, but I think that the way to, and I would really need to talk to the show producer to understand sort of what they're doing right now and get sort of details. It's without knowing all of that, it's hard to give I think a really specific answer. But a couple things. So applications are down for a lot of shows. It's something I'm hearing from a lot of producers. One strategy that I've seen work, and we've done this at ACC, is to reach out to past exhibitors and ask a couple key questions as to what dynamics are contributing to that, because that could be, you know, the show moved its date. It could be, there's a lot, like it's competing with another show that moved its date. There's a lot of different factors that can contribute to that. So I think just hearing from artists about it is going to be really helpful. And then I also think that not having a sort of repetitious sort of plug and play marketing and communication strategy is really important. I think thinking about it carefully every year and evolving and trying different things is really important. So that might be partnering with different what I call like aggregators, like some different companies that like WestApp does, but there's ArtLink, there's a number of them out there. ArtSource, Art Fair Sourcebook is another who you can list your show, but they also will market for you and you can reach their audiences. So really making sure that you're leveraging all of those resources as much as possible. And again, thinking about new avenues is going to be really big. Advertising, not just through those, but in general. So like in magazines like American Craft or other periodicals, Snag has a magazine too. Like there's all those different avenues. So they really have to be thought about a lot and I think updated, and definitely make sure that their strategies are really in parallel with your exhibitor, like exhibitor list, like with your artists. So if you feel like you don't really know, or maybe your exhibitors are shifting, again, going back to them and asking key questions to understand their needs, and then aligning your strategies is going to be key.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot.
That's great. No, that's great. Unless Brissa, you have anything to add to that, we can move on.
That was all great. Marketing, I think a lot of follow-up also whenever we notice people not coming back, checking back in. So we keep track of all of that. And a lot of people don't check their emails, and that's okay. So give them a call once or twice. And a lot of times they do want to come back and they just miss their email.
Yes, great point.
All right, well, let's have a question for the artists. So what communication skills do you recommend for your fellow new artists or vendors? Karina, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Communications, like meaning how to communicate with your, like in a show?
Yeah, I would say how to communicate with the show producers, with anyone, your buyers.
Yeah, well, with buyers being at the art shows, just be you. I mean, trying to be someone else, like, at the beginning, if I will try to be someone that speaks perfect English, and I don't do any mistake, I mean, I will have not made it. I just embrace who you are, trust in yourself, trust in your art. We always start with something. Your art is valuable for you. It's valuable for people. There's people for every art. So don't judge yourself very hardly. Yes, always try to evolve. That's really important. But the reality is that you just need to be yourself, and communicate that way. If you like to make jokes, make jokes. You're a more serious person, be a more serious person, but always be there in front of the art, communicate with people, that go into your booth. You don't need to say a lot, you can just introduce yourself, and from there the conversation can start. Communication with directors of the show, it's always the easiest way is by email. They are very, very, very busy, attending all these crazy artists that we want, to ask every little detail and where gonna be placed, and so many things. Email is the best way to communicate. Some of them they take a little bit, some of them they don't even answer. Also, they normally have a phone you can call them too. So yeah, that's the way to communicate with the directors.
Yeah, I'm gonna say across the board, be assertive and be gracious. So when people enter your booth, you don't have to give them a whole sales pitch and spiel. But hey, I'm Clifton Henri. I'm the artist. I'll give you a few minutes to look around. I'm here if you need me. That's all you got to say. And if they leave without purchasing something, hey, thank y'all so much for your time. Here's a card. You mind if I grab your email? Follow up with the email that says, thank you for visiting the booth, X, Y, and Z. Here's how to reach me online. So be assertive, like give them the information without being pushy per se, but you don't have to have a whole sales pitch if you're nervous about like conversations. And when it comes to like show directors and things like that, just be assertive and introduce yourself. But hey, it's first time doing your show. Had a great experience. I'm looking forward to next year. That like they'll remember you. Maybe not, but that ain't necessarily the point. The point is to also just get repetitions in of being assertive and being gracious, and the middle will figure itself out. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, we still have some time for a few more. So this one, back to our show administrators, and Emily, feel free to provide your thoughts here too, based on your experience. But this one is kind of going back to the conversation around collecting feedback. So this attendee asked, do shows ask their customer base, their audience, how the show went? Were they happy with what they saw, experienced? Did they find arts and craft they bought? More importantly, how do shows know this without asking their customers? And anyone who wants to chime in.
I can actually chime in on this. It is so hard to get people to fill out surveys. It is, and I joke and say bribery, but what will get me to fill out a survey is if I have a chance to win something. And you definitely want to get those surveys to people right away. If not at the show, like, hey, as they're exiting the show, how was your show experience? You could win this amazing pot or you could win dinner. I think, but if you wait a week or two, I know the artists' minds are off, the other people's minds are off, and don't expect if you get 30%, that's a great return rate on a lot of the surveys that I do. Don't expect everyone to fill it out.
Yeah, so I think in addition to the surveys as well, we like to do actual post reviews with our artists afterwards. So we will do either a Zoom or in person, depending on what works best that year. So we'll have the regular surveys that go out. And like you said, an enticing award at the end of it makes people a lot happier. We had it, so the city did an economic impact survey this year. $100 Amazon gift card was the big thing. People loved it. We had a lot of people sign up, so that and that helped us get more people to actually give feedback. But then I also send out like the thank you emails to our actual artists and other people that come back regularly, and getting them to communicate and let them know we are going to be communicating soon. If you want to be involved, if you want your voice to be heard, please attend. So just reaching out right away and setting up post reviews is part of what we do to have good feedback and a variety of feedback as well there as well, other than yes, no, and ratings, but some person-to-person communication as well.
As far as audience tracking, that's harder, especially if it's an open air show. If it is a show where you sell tickets, then you can at least track by zip code and know where your attendees are coming from. But getting that data of, age brackets, income brackets, that's always something that show producers and administrators and everyone is looking for. But it depends on the type of show and what kind of data you can.
Yeah, I'd really recommend for that. A lot of the tourism departments in cities have a lot of really great programs. So we usually do a lot through our tourism department. They will already have things going on that gather, where are these cell phones coming from, what states, etc. So it's a great resource, the tourism departments in the areas where your cities take place.
This is great. I don't have anything to add regarding the comments about serving. I think that was all really spot on. The one other strategy that I employ is I make sure that both myself and our staff is spending a lot of time on the floor and that we are talking to people. And then I ask our staff, and I do this as well, to record what they are learning while it's still fresh, and I track all of that. So observations about and that's both our attendees and the artists. So our staff will do booth sitting, and then we'll end up talking to the artists, but we also will if we're in a booth and there are attendees there, just turn to them and say, hi, we're from the American Craft Council. Are you enjoying yourself? Where are you from? Just really, it's like we are the survey. And then I ask the staff to then document what they're learning. And we get all kinds of really great information that way. And yes, it's more labor intensive, but to Emily and Brissa's point, it's really difficult to get statistics about the audience and attendees. So this is one of the ways that, again, it's not a perfect system, but we're just people interacting with other people, and you can really learn a lot that way.
I was going to say, from an artist that doesn't fill out a bunch of surveys, to put it in smaller doses, and maybe when the information is relevant. So don't give me a survey at the end of the show when I'm on my way home with 10 questions. If you're interested about how was load-in the morning that the show begins, send me a text message saying like, hey, how was load-in? Good, bad, whatever, and in the comment section. So I can press a button, whatever, and send it right back in real time or whatever while it's fresh or something like that. And then I guess what is in the survey? I could fill out a 2 or 3 question survey pretty quick, but if it's extensive, it's like, man, I don't have time for this. Or why y'all being so nosy? Why you want to know this? You know what I mean? And then I don't want to share that information depending upon like how sensitive it is, so.
I can relate to all the survey woes here at ZAPP too. We try to get info about our system, and I'm right there with you on certain things. So I'm taking some of your suggestions as well. Well, unfortunately, I have to wrap up the Q&A portion. I wish we could get to everyone's questions, but just know that us here at ZAPP will take note of everything, and I'm getting kind of some new ideas for conversations that we can have within the community here. So I really appreciate everyone asking these questions that we have in here. So thank you all for attending today's webinar. I hope you've gained something from this panel, even if it's just a conversation you want to continue outside of this space. I encourage you to do so. Thank you, Emily, Brissa, Clifton, Karina, and Katie for being here, for sharing your perspectives. And so on behalf of ZAPP, we'd like to share our extreme thanks for your participation and involvement within this community. I hope everyone has a wonderful day and take care. Thanks again.
You're inviting
Bye.
us.
Thank you.
Bye.